Python programming tutorials. This video I discuss about synchronization with the help of a producer-consumer problem. So before getting into the programming, let me discuss some theoretical aspect of that. Now, assume that there are two different threads. Okay, let's say T1 and T2, two different threads. Two threads need to access a shared resource. Okay, you just need to understand what is a thread as well. So you have a process. So the process has different threads. So let's say T1 and T2. So both T1 and T2 need to access a shared resource. So this we call it as critical session in terms of operating system. So multiple threads trying to access the same variable, or we can say it is a resource. When a single resource is needed by multiple threads, this creates a deadlock problem. So to avoid it, we have to strategically use some steps. Okay, first allow this process to access, and then allow the T2 to access, and then if later T3 is there, allowing T3 to access. That is a synchronized way of accessing based on some fashion. Okay, so for instance, we'll take a producer-consumer problem. Okay, there is a producer and there is a consumer. Okay, T1 you call it as a producer, and T2 you can call it as a consumer. When you look at here, the producer is the person who is producing set of items, and he will be placing it in a tray. We can assume that, or we can say it is a basket. So from the tray, the consumer will take one and wait for the producer to produce. The condition is either producer or consumer. So producer can produce only one item at a time to the basket or tray. The consumer at a time can consume whatever available in the critical session, or we can say it is in the tray, then wait for the producer to produce. So this is a cycle it will be going on, depends on the number of iteration or requirement. Okay, this is the very basic fundamental of producer-consumer problem. Well, it's time to write the code for producer-consumer problem. Load the appropriate packages, that is import thread class, and also we need to import the condition class. I will explain later why we are using condition, and create couple of variables. Chocolates, it's a list of items. These are the items going to be produced by the producer. Okay, he is going to produce a white chocolate, and he is going to produce a milk chocolate. Also, he is going to produce a dark chocolate. Okay, these are the type of chocolates he is going to produce. And then we to create a shared variable. I call it as a tray. It's going to be an empty tray, nothing is there initially. So this is going to be shared between producer and consumer. Okay, now let us create the class producer. Producer is extended from the thread, and this is used for creating the producer thread. Okay, define the init method, and the first line is calling the superclass init method. Okay, thread class init method is called. That's fine. It's time to override the run method. So run method is the one where we put our thread logic. Okay, so logic we will write, just create another class. Class consumer. Consumer is also extended from thread. Define the init method. So the first method of the init is calling the thread class constructor for initialization. The next one is defining the run method. This is useful to create the logic. So thread logic, and this class is used to create the consumer logic. Sorry, consumer thread. Fine. We need to understand couple of things, that is what exactly going to happen in our scenario. So the producer is going to produce an item in the tray, and the tray is shared between producer and consumer. At the same time, either producer or consumer can access to this tray. Okay. After producing an item, producer will give a signal to the consumer saying that, hey, I have done something, produce something, please take it. Then he will take the item, consumer item, and give a notification back, hey, I have consumed it. Again, producer will start producing. This cycle repeats. That is what producer consumer problem is. The first thing is, producer, before producing, he need to acquire a lock. That means this tray need to be locked by the producer to ensure that consumer is not trying to access. After that, he need to produce an item or place an item in the tray. After placing an item in the tray, okay, he has to give a notification, okay, saying that consumer, hey, I have produced an item in the tray, please consume it. Now he cannot consume it. He get to know that, okay, item is ready. So because already the tray is locked by the producer, and this needs to be released. Now what happens next? He will go for a wait state. In the wait state, what happens automatically, there is a method we use normally called a wait method, which forces the producer to releases his lock. Okay, now what happens, he is going to acquire the lock. Okay, after this wait step, he is going to get the lock, that is the consumer. After getting the lock, he will consume an item, then give a notification, hey, I have given it, consumed it, and now your turn. So immediately he cannot access the tray because already the lock is now held by the consumer. Now the consumer has to wait for the producer to produce the next item. So wait automatically releases the lock which is held by the producer. Now what happens? The lock is released automatically. The program will return to this place, okay, wait place, and releases the lock, go back, acquire the lock, place an item. This cycle continues. Okay, this is a producer consumer cycle. So that we are going to implement into the code. Now what are the things we need to do? The first thing is acquire and lock. Acquire a lock, and second step is produce an item. Produce an item in the tray, we can say that. After producing an item in the tray, he has to give a notification, notify the consumer. After giving notification, he has to go for a wait state. Then final one is release the lock. These are the steps. In case of a consumer, he is again acquire the lock. Okay, you can say that. Okay, acquire the lock, that's the first step. After acquiring the lock, he is going to consume an item, consume the item from the tray, then give a notification, notify the producer. After notification, we go for a wait state, finally release the lock. Fine. Now how to acquire the lock? For getting a lock, there is a class available called condition. So the condition class provides set of methods like acquire, notify, wait, release, which are very helpful to what? Create this synchronization. So what we are going to implement it here, which we call it as a synchronization problem in what? Any programming language. So in Python, to implement the synchronization, the condition class contains this list of methods acquiring a log. It provides a method called acquire and place an item. So that is our own logic, how to access this variable or any kind of data structure, whatever we use. And notification, there is a notify method which is used for give a notification to the consumer. And wait is again another method, and release, that is to wait for an event to happen. And release the log, it's again the method which is to release the log which is already held by a particular thread. Fine. Now let us implement the first one. So before that, we need an object of the condition class. So first create an object of what? Object of condition class. So let's say condition equal to condition. This is the way we can create a condition class object. Well, this logic need to run for multiple times. That is, three, at least minimum of 3 times, so that everything we can put it inside a looping statement. I can say that for I in range of 0, 3, so that it is going to execute it for thrice. This is all going to be implemented inside the for loop. Fine. And we need to have an access to these variables, so that I can say that global tray as well as chocolates. So both I need to access. Now getting a log is the first step. So what we can do is we can use the condition object acquire. This will be a log for the producer. After getting a log, we need to do something, that is produce an item. The producer need to produce an item. So how to produce? Whatever produced should be in the tray. Call the append method and place an item from the chocolate of I. So that is the item which is produced first will be placed inside this tray. And so during the first iteration, it takes the white chocolate and placed it in the tray. Second iteration, milk will be placed, and third iteration, dark will be placed, and so on. Now after placing an item, we can say that print of give a so that we get to know that what is happening. What is available in the tray can be printed, and along with we can say that chocolate produced. Okay, fine. So after doing this, a notification has to be given to the consumer. Condition dot notify okay, this will give a notification. Then the producer will go to a wait state. Okay, now what happens? The consumer side again the same logic, global accessing the chocolates tray, right? Then put a for loop. Okay, this time I say that j in range of 0, 3. 3 items the producer is going to produce, 3 items the consumer is going to consume. Now he has to get a log. Okay, consumer acquire, that's the first step. Now the consumption. So consumption is first print, okay, what is available in the tray of 0th location, then say that consumed. Okay, the particular chocolate is consumed. After that, so it must be removed from the tray. So we can call the clear method that will remove it. Once it is done, he has to give a notification. Hey, I have completed it. Give a notify. Yes. After notification, he has to go to a wait state. The consumer has to go to the wait state. Now once he reaches the wait state, a signal will go here. So this thread will continue from here. Okay, he got a notification, continue from here. What's the next statement? The lock need to be released. So write a statement, condition dot release. Okay, this is the procedure. Fine. Now again at the end the consumer has to release the lock. Okay, so dot release. Fine. I will explain how each and every step is happening. Now let us run the code and see what is happening. Process finished. Yes, it may not run. Why? Because we have not added any object for this. Okay, if underscore underscore name double equal to main, then create an object p equal to producer, c equal to consumer. Okay, now we have to start it, p dot start and c dot start. Run the code. Oh, we are getting an error. Name range is not defined. I think there is a typo error in the range. Range, right. Okay, that is the error. White chocolate produced, white chocolate consumed, milk chocolate produced, milk chocolate consumed, dark chocolate produced, dark. Wow, it's nice. But when you look at the code, you can see here it is not completed. The code is not completed. It is stuck somewhere. Okay, by seeing this icon you can understand. So I'm just stopping the code. Okay, so I'm getting an error. Some error is there, some exception, some keyboard interrupt. Because of that it has come out. Okay, fine. Now what I do before doing that, let us see, suppose this consumer thread start first, what happens? Okay, run the code again. Straight away it will stuck into a problem called what? Index error. And now what is the scenario? When you look at, first consumer starts and trying to access the tray has nothing. Now that should not be the case. It should not happen. So first the producer has to produce an item and place it in a tray, then the consumer has to access it. So that is what happening here clearly. The consumer starts first and finding it the tray is empty. That's why this is throwing an error, list index out of range. I'm trying to access a location 0, which is actually an empty tray. Okay, so this need to be addressed. So how we can address this? First, before consuming, here we need to put a condition. If the tray is what? Free or not. Okay, that means we can just check the length of the tray. If it is equal to 0, okay, then we have to say that print. Okay, the consumer will say waiting for the producer. Okay, and he has to wait actually. So he go to the wait state. Otherwise this will happen. Fine. Run the code and see. Now even though the consumer started first, he went to a wait state, then white chocolate producer started producing, consumed, milk chocolate produced, consumed, dark chocolate consumed, produced, but it is not still coming out of the loop. So I'm just stopping the code. Now it is getting a keyboard interrupt, that due to that it is stopping. What is exactly happening is there are 3 iterations, right? In the 3 iteration, what happens? The producer first iteration, he will come here and give a notification and go to the wait state. Now the consumer continues and try to consume. After consuming, he will go to the wait state. Then it will reach us here, and second iteration starts. Again, he will come to this position and wait, and the second consumption starts. After finishing, it will again give a signal, and the consumer waits now. third iteration start, items produced, okay, fine, and he go to a wait state, and third time he will what comes here, consume it, unnecessarily waiting now. Why? Because here only 3 iterations are there. After the third iteration, automatically it will go to an end. Okay, this releases the lock and it will go to an end. And in this case, he's in the third item he's unnecessarily waiting after third iteration, unnecessarily waiting for the producer to produce, because producer is going to produce ultimately 3 items. So after third iteration, definitely the thread 1 comes to an end. This consumer is unnecessarily waiting. Nobody is saying, hey, already the production is done, please stop it. He is already waiting here to receive a signal from the producer. There is nobody to give a signal to the consumer saying that, okay, it's already done, please release the lock and die. So that is not getting it. So that's why here we need to put a condition here, just before going to wait state, when he need to wait, if j is less than 2, then he need to wait, otherwise no need to wait, because the third iteration no need to wait, and so it will come to a what, next statement, and release the lock and it finish its execution. Fine, and let us run the code now again. Now you see that white chocolate waiting for the producer, white chocolate produced, white chocolate consumes, all the chocolates are produced and consumed, finally it came out. Okay, now let us change the order and see whether everything goes in a fine direction. Okay, stop the thread. Okay. Run it again. Okay, so white chocolate produced, consumed, milk chocolate produced and consumed, dark chocolate produced and consumed, right? So this is what we need to follow when implementing of shared variable between multiple threads, or otherwise in terms of operating system to implement a critical session between 2 different threads. So these steps we need to remember. First, each process when it is trying to access a shared item, first it need to get a lock, place an item, or that means put an item or put a value, whatever need to be done, or otherwise we can say that trying to access this value, a variable, then give a notification, then go for waiting state for the consumer to consume it. The consumer will again get the lock, consume it, notification, again waits, and finally releases the lock. Now so every time you may get a doubt, okay, what is happening when it is wait, when the thread goes out of the processor, automatically he has to release all the locks which is held by him. That's the reason why during the wait state, automatically the locks will be released. It will go to the other side, it will continue from here, release the lock, again second iteration, again getting the lock, it continues. Okay, that's the way this mechanism works. I hope you enjoyed the discussion and you understood how to implement a producer consumer problem in Python. Thank you for watching the video.